Good evening, ACC students. So, your homework tonight is to familiarize yourself with what you're going to be doing for your culminating project for the Canterbury Tales. Essentially, I'm going to be asking you guys to create a Wikispace and then conversely teach that piece of technology to the rest of the class. So essentially what you're looking at while you're listening to me right now is the tutorial I've set up that mirrors what you're going to see in the Wikispace that you're going to be interacting with for the next week. Basically what this is the tutorial that I'm going to walk you through the basics of this so that tomorrow in class you guys are going to be able to just jump right in and be able to work through this Wikispace efficiently. Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the assignment itself, let's just kind of talk about the very first steps. Now, you're going to need to become members of this wiki. So what you're going to see when you go into your mailboxes, your inboxes, is an actual tutorial membership. So you're going to have to join. That's pretty straightforward. You're just going to have to go ahead and just click the link, and it's going to bring you right back to where we were at the beginning there. So you're just going to find that right in your Kennedy email. That's pretty straightforward. So you've clicked on that link, and now you're actually at our home site for our Canterbury Tales wiki, which is going to look very much similar to this. The content is the same. This, however, of course, is the tutorial. Your class one is going to look a little different. Now, let's just kind of talk about the nuts and bolts of the assignment itself. Essentially, what we're going to be doing with this is building on what you've seen me doing in class. Essentially, I'm going to ask you to teach the class. I essentially have hopefully been paying attention to me because I've pretty much been the mirror, the template for what you've been doing. Only difference is I'm going to ask you to be a little bit more of a technological savvy. Use a little bit more than just the whiteboard and notes. So basically, what you're going to be looking at in terms of this assignment is to engage the class. You're the teacher after all, so you're going to be engaging the class of students in storytelling, recognizing its importance in terms of literary illusion and learner reading experience. So in a sense, what you're going to be doing is building what we've kind of been talking about in class, how Chaucer used satire, allusion, religious allegory, all these things to really kind of build a seminal medieval piece of literature. Skills you're going to need. This is kind of a basic overview. What you're going to walk out of this unit being able to do is pretty much right here. I am going to expect you to do, and these are things that really you've seen us doing all year long. But just FYI, just because we're doing a technological based assignment, our departure from essay writing for you guys, you are going to still be required to do quite a bit of the same sort of essay based stuff. Most specifically, textual evidence. MLA citing still necessary. Just keep that in mind, okay? If you disappear, if you find that you're wandering away from the text itself, you're in trouble, okay? So yeah, I'm going to ask you to be able to synthesize and discuss a text in depth, okay? Build that strong content knowledge, no brainer there. This is going to be a really interesting one, is responding to the various demands of audience, task, and discipline. In a sense, if you're the teacher, you have to teach content, and you are going to be teaching new content, new material that we've not covered to the class. So you have to be aware of what the audience, the students themselves, not just Mr. McQuarrie, the assessor, but the students themselves, how are they learning what you're teaching? In addition to this, I'm going to ask you guys to create a rubric. So I am going to ask you guys to take a critical eye to how successful you were to teaching and instruction. Okay? Okay. Next up are unit standards. This is the standards that you're going to address in this unit, in this process. Now, essentially, I want you to bring your attention to something pretty close. So you draw this distinction. Notice what's in all these numbers. Determine, analyze, write, initiate, use, acquire. Essentially, a lot of verbs. Basically, what standards are, and this distinction is going to need to be made right now. The distinction is that the unit standards are the things that you are going to be able to do. In a sense, I'm going to expect to be able to see you guys demonstrating your ability to do these. So most specifically, you notice number 6 here. You notice some pretty key words popping up that we've been talking about for some time now. Essentially, what I'm asking you to do in reading there under, reading category, number 6, and these are coming off Common Core standards. So don't say, Mr. McCory, why are their numbers all disorganized? Well, it's because that's Missouri state standards. Essentially, what I'm asking you to do is close reading of text and be able to analyze literary elements, just like we just did in class. Okay, so be aware that these are skills that you're supposed to be able to demonstrate. Why is that necessary? Why do I need to make that distinction? Because here we're going to come up to the next part, the enduring question and the big ideas. Okay. Okay, so essentially, here's the difference between these and the standards. These are going to be the things, the standards. These are what you're going to do to demonstrate learning. Right down here, these are the things you learned. Okay, so this is really kind of the crucial thing here. It's like, this is the plow that you use to plow the field. These are the field, okay? So basically what I'm going to ask you to do with this process is very much mirrors of what we've been doing in class for the past few days. Essentially, I'm going to ask you is how does Chaucer illustrate his theme about 7 deadly sins, as well as how does he utilize satire in storytelling, okay? So this is really crucial to note as far as making sure that you have a very strong presentation. Is do you address this enduring question? Do you illustrate these big ideas within your presentation? Also crucial is this one, number 3 here, is not just talking about the art of storytelling as far as medieval times, but you can even reflect on its connections to today. Okay? So basically the long story short is these are the actions you're going to do to demonstrate this learning. How about the structure of the actual activity? So here's what you're going to do. You're going to create a group wiki. Now, that means I am going to ask you guys to get into groups. And what I'm going to ask you to do is basically create a page, several different pages that you're going to use as the backbone to a class 20-minute presentation. Okay? This stuff's kind of a rehashing of what's down here. This is a little bit more on target. Essentially, what I'm going to ask you to do is teach a 20 to 25-minute lesson. You're going to have 4 to 5 people in the group. So that's basically you break down 4 minutes per person. What I'm going to ask you to do is also utilize a lot of technology, visuals, and interactives. So essentially, you're teaching a legitimate lesson. You're going to use, and I do have a list of a lot of technology that you're going to use. So this might kind of be a silly thing, but in efforts to make you more digitally literate, I'm literally throwing you in the pool in the deep end and saying, hey, go swim. I'm throwing a lot of technology at you in this. But I'm also giving you a lot of chance to play to your strengths. That's hopefully how this works out. So essentially, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to choose 2 activities that are more critical thinking, abstract thinking type skills. I'm also going to ask you to choose 2 remaining options that are this dealer's choice. So in a sense, you're going to do 4 different tasks, 4 different things that you're going to do. And in a sense, what you're going to do is use 4 different tasks to create an in-depth analysis of a story, one of the Chaucer Canterbury Tales, that you're going to illustrate, much like in class, the genre. Remember, we've got the Partner's Tale, medieval exemplum. We've got the medieval romance. So what genre is the tale in? What form does it take as far as poetics? Is it iambic pentameter, rhyming couplets, that sort of thing? How about source material? As you've seen before, Chaucer isn't exactly a new writer. He does not exactly take a novel approach to things. So, where did Chaucer get the story? I want you to focus in on characterization. Much like we did with the Pardoner, what can you find out not just about the storyteller themselves, but also the characters in the story? I just need you to be able to flesh out these people for us so that we can see them in 3 dimensions. I need you to be able to summarize the tale and also interpretive issues. Going back to the Partner's Tale, we talk about the religious allegory in the knight, the host, and the partner. What can you see as far as interpretive issues that need to be brought to the forefront? So these are basically the benchmarks of the things that you need to hit within your presentation. Okay, let us talk about the actual tasks. Okay, you notice this big blank table. This is going to be the first thing you're going to actually get into and start working on. Okay? Now you notice I say choose 2 activities from the upper half of the abstract thinking. Well, here are your categories. Abstract. So I need you to be able to pick 2 of these 3 categories: analyzing, evaluating, or creating. Okay. So you notice we got these lists of nouns here. Okay, this is the first part of your assignment. First stop is we're talking about, essentially these are coming from Bloom's taxonomy. What's Bloom's taxonomy? It's basically the levels of thinking. Think about it this way. It's pretty easy to remember your phone number, right? Well, that's pretty low level thinking, okay? How do we get to more of those higher order thinking skills, okay? So here's your first stop. This is what you're going to be able to expect you're going to be able to do, okay? Now you see this list of verbs. Is that all of them? No, pretty easy. Look, we Google, you see a whole list of other verbs. So you've got plenty of options, okay? Basically, Bloom's taxonomy is what you're going to hit as far as that. But what I'm going to ask you to do is your first stop is to fill out this form, okay? Fill out this table with what your task is going to be. What am I going to see you demonstrate in class? So are you going to construct something? Okay, what are you going to construct? Let's move on to the next stop then. Here we go. I've got a whole list of technological tools that I'm going to ask you to use. So that's the second part of it. I'm going to ask you to think about that. Are you going to create, say, a comic strip using Animoto? And are you going to create a cartoon that then illustrates some aspect of one of the tales? Okay, so that's kind of the big thing right there. It's basically, I'm giving you a lot of latitude, a lot of freedom with this assignment. Essentially, I'm giving you enough rope to hang me, because this could blow up in my face. It might not. Who knows? But essentially, what I'm asking you to do is to basically play Lincoln Laws. You're connecting a lot of things here. You're picking some verbs. What do you want to do? What technology are you going to use to do that? So essentially, I'm saying choose your own adventure. Pick what assignment you're going to do. Tell me. That's going to be one of the first things, is also to pass judgment on thumbs up, thumbs down. Did you pick something? Does it work out? Now, remember, I'm asking you to pick 2 out of these 3 categories. The other 2 can be whatever you want. It's dealer's choice. Okay. Next up. Due date. Well, again, like I said, there's a lot of latitude, so we're going to kind of play it fast and loose. We'll determine a due date, assuming that this isn't an epic disaster with this Snapchat and all. Rubrics, however, are going to be due February 27th. I'm going to ask you to create your own rubric. Okay, basic guidelines here, as well as samples down here of what I'm looking for. Essentially, I'm going to have your classmates critique you while you're presenting, and also give an opportunity whether or not they learned it, okay? So I want you to be able to put a rubric on this website that you're going to use here, okay? Now, how are you going to help yourself? Well, this website here, Rubistar, is basically a website that you can use to help you create rubrics, okay? So you've got some models here, as well as of my expectations, as well as some guidelines there. But that's one of the first things I want you to do, is determine how do you want to be critiqued. What tasks are you going to complete? And how are you going to be assessed on them? What do you want your classmates to walk away from? So really, that's the first things I want you to think about. Okay. Final stop before we're out of time here is, well, I'm going to do this first. When you click on that link, this is actually what the page is going to look like. You notice that there's nothing there, okay? You really want to come up here and click on the Show Wiki Controls button, because this is what's going to allow you to actually do the work that I'm assigning you. First things first is you click on this, you get this edit button. This is the lifeline for you to do this assignment, okay? You click on that, and you notice that basically a lot of these icons you've seen from Microsoft Word, but this is what is going to allow you to edit this page as well as your own class page, okay? So we'll get into the team assignments later, but basically the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is, as you decide on your groups, is to start constructing your rubric, as well as filling in what are you going to do, what type of task are you going to do, what is your choices there, okay? So those are your first things that you're going to do for homework. When you come into class, I'm going to be able to expect you to walk in and know how to do those 3 things so we can start up later. Thank you very much. Bye.